study,
and play come together on a Windows 11 PC.
And for a limited time, college students get
The best
of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
On this episode of Bantha Milk Podcast, Rob's on vacation, and our guest Jade has lots of opinions.
Hi. Yeah, unfortunately.
It's the Bantha Milk Podcast. Yeah! Pour a glass of that blue milk, we know it's gonna last. With Rob and James behind the controls, discussing Jedi, Sith, and all the plot holes. Every week we're back, can't be denied. Got the hot takes flowing and the canon clarified.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Bantha Milk Podcast. I am James. Rob is in Jamaica, so not in a galaxy too far, far away, but hopefully having a great time in the sun, maybe finding some blue milk. So in the meantime, I asked my good friend Jade to come on the show because I know she has lots of opinions about Star Wars that'll be fun to hear.
All right, listen, I love Star Wars. I love Star Wars, maybe not as much as the two of you, but I also dislike some of it. And my passion goes both ways. I embrace both the light and the dark, the love and the hate of this franchise.
Well, where did all of this spawn for you, Jade? Do you have a first Star Wars memory or how it really came into your life?
Ooh, I mean, I'm a bit younger than the two of you. I was born in 96, so Phantom Menace came out before I could really, string sentences together.
And that's so sad because that was such a great moment in theaters, but carry on.
See, I remember my father hating Phantom Menace because he was of an age to enjoy the original trilogy in his, teens and 20s. I remember watching Phantom Menace at home on VHS, and I did see Attack of the Clones in theaters. I have, specific memories of that. And I continued to follow the franchise throughout. I used to live in Los Angeles. We used to go to Disneyland all the time, and this was kind of the height, or maybe the beginning of the Disney and Star Wars coexistence. So it's just always been in my life. My dad really loved Star Wars. I was the right age for the prequels, but I was kind of the wrong age for the Clone Wars. The movie came out when I was 12, and then I was kind of, too much of an edgy teenager to really care about that kids show.
But cartoons.
Obviously, I've come around again, and I am not someone who particularly enjoys the sequel movies, but I have liked a lot of what Disney has done with Star Wars since.
And I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to talk about that and more. Jade might be selling herself short. We met playing tabletop role-playing games, including the Star Wars version of it.
Oh, that's
Fantasy
right.
Flight Games. So we have had some fun with that. But this isn't a podcast about our friendship and life story. We're here to keep talking about Star Wars. But as we do on this podcast, this is a drinking podcast originated with beer, but I know my friend Jade doesn't really like beer that much.
Yeah, I'm more of a liquor drinker when I do drink, and my coworker gave me this very nice bottle of sake that I'm trying to get through. And I feel like I'm going to need a stiff drink to get through my discussion topic today.
Or two, if you're feeling excited.
Yeah,
right?
well, this is a heavy pour.
Oh, I like it. So, well, while you enjoy the sake, knowing Rob is down in the Caribbean, I've got a bottle of rum.
Oh, very festive.
What else says, I hope Rob's having a good time, than a bottle straight from Nassau? So, and of course, festive as well with the childhood stuff. I have my purple Donatello Ninja Turtle shot glass.
Cute.
I've got the full set of all 4 Ninja Turtles, but I'm pretty sure this is like the only one I use.
Was Donnie your go-to as a kid?
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, great.
The purple nerd fighting with the staff, so interesting. Michelangelo was too wild. Nobody likes the main character. And then I was not moody or edgy enough for Raphael, so.
Yeah, it checks out with what I know of you.
Yeah, so. Well, cheers, Jade.
Cheers through the microphone. Oh my god, it's so strong.
Yep. Same. It's only burning a little bit. It's fine. So, and a little pull back behind the curtains. Nothing says we live in the Midwest like taking shots at 2 p.m.
Hey, you
So,
don't need to reveal what time this is.
oh, sorry. Some secrets should exist, right? Anyway, we are on the Ears Up Network along with several other shows. 3 new episodes, at least from our partner podcasts, have come out since our last one. Ears Up, the main channel, has an episode behind the music of Pirates of the Caribbean. So cool to listen on that and get your yo-hos on. The Supreme Resort has a case of which should come back, Horizons versus the People Mover. I am 100% team People Mover.
Me too.
Miss the People Mover. Never got to ride in its true Disneyland glory, so it makes me sad.
Yeah.
And Fantasyland Draft League out with their June episode arguing Disneyland Resort sit-down restaurants. So they'll draft their favorites there, and you can make your opinions known. Otherwise, if other things are your interest, Puny Pod, the MCU podcast, Scraping the Vault, digging into old Disney movies, the Buena Vista Boys as well. You can find all of those over on the Ears Up Network. But you're here for Bantha Milk. And our main topic tonight, Jade, what are we going to be talking about?
Yeah, there are a lot of ways that fans like to restructure the series to kind of watch it in a more ideal order. That's what we're talking about. Fan orders today. We're talking about fan edits today, but specifically, we're going to be talking about the Clone Wars and what I've been calling Route 66.
It's a fun play on Order 66, obviously.
Whoa, really?
Wow.
I didn't notice that until now.
Oh, crazy. Super embarrassing story for me. So I teach at a technical college, and one of my students was a huge Star Wars fan, and he had a hat that said Order 66 in like the Route 66 emblem, and I never got close enough to read it because it was really like dark gray on black to read Order. So I'm like, oh, he's just really into Route 66. That's
it's Americana, history.
Yeah. Like, doesn't seem to vibe with the student I know, but okay, why not? Oh, never mind. Doing great. So yeah, so that was neato to watch. He ended up making a time lapse of himself building I want to say one of the lat ships for the Star Wars thing.
Ooh,
Super
that's
cool
cool.
project.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, that's coming up. But first, we've got a few other segments to get through, like the news.
Star Wars news. Star Wars news. Star Wars news. Star Wars news. Star Wars news.
I have a few news stories for us ready to talk about this week. Not too much big by any means, but we'll get some opinions, I'm sure. So the first one, Peter Serafinowicz, the original voice of Darth Maul in the Phantom Menace, went on a podcast this week and was really candid about his time. Apparently, George Lucas at one point told him he was the new James Earl Jones. And
yeah, I did hear about this.
Serafinowicz was so bitter because he's like, why aren't you paying me like that? And really just wasn't included much beyond that as Sam Witwer took over for it. So I haven't listened to that whole episode, but yikes.
Yeah, I mean, he was supposed to have more lines, I guess, in Phantom Menace, and was supposed to be a much bigger character, and he's reduced to, two or three maybe total lines.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, you're right. Sam Witwer obviously has become the voice of Darth Maul since, but Star Wars has a long history of replacing voice cast, removing voice cast, and just kind of willy nilly making these decisions and changing their minds and kind of leaving actors in the dust.
Yeah, and it's such a shame because you've got such a cast of actors. Obviously, not as broad as like Marvel or the TV show Law and Order, but you know, not everything's going to have all of those. And especially if someone seems like they were excited, like the fact that you still have these feelings all these years later, like that's just rough.
Yeah, I know David Prowse kind of took it on the chin. He was the man inside the Vader suit, and at least for A New Hope was told that his voice would continue to be the voice of Darth Vader. And it wasn't
Hmm.
until much later that they replaced him with James Earl Jones. And he gave it a good effort, and he really liked being Vader in as much as he could be.
Yep. Yep, he really did. So I remember hearing some of that comparison, and it's one of those things I'm like, yeah, that was probably the right choice, but I'm glad that he still embraced what it was.
Mhm.
All right. Speaking of voices, George Lucas is coming out of retirement, and it's not for Star Wars. He's voicing a character in Illumination's Minions and Monsters because it
I didn't know this one.
turns out he's a genuine super fan of the franchise.
That's
So,
crazy. Actually, that checks out.
right? So what's not to love about it? So they created a specific character for him. He recorded in Paris. Everything's there. So when that film comes out in July, beginning of July, I'm pretty sure, you got to listen up for his voice.
Cute.
Oh, I know, right? So I'm skeptical. Like I love the Despicable Me series, but the Minions series to me is always one of those. The sidekicks don't always make great main characters.
I'm pretty sure I've only seen the original Despicable Me and nothing else since. So
All
sorry.
right. Well, we got work to do. That's fine. All right, moving on. Happy birthday to me on June 27th from noon to 2. Participating Best Buy locations in the US and Canada will be giving away a free 133-piece Bo Katan Kryze buildable figure, the first brick built version of this character ever made, and there is no purchase necessary.
Whoa, that's fun. You gonna go grab one?
I will be on a plane at that time,
Oh
unfortunately,
no!
so missing out for sure. But it's one of those kind of silly looking small ones that I wouldn't get super excited for. Like I
Sure.
prefer the minifigs compared to a lot of the sets that are coming out to get the pieces because a lot of them just don't look quite
Oh
right.
yeah, it's very abstract.
Yeah. Very cool though. Like this is pretty generous. A lot of the ones they've done in the past have been like 50-piece builds. So this one's a lot of pieces and a
Hmm.
nice figure to get representation.
I'm gonna keep it on my
So
radar.
yeah. Check participating Best Buys and get there early because it's only while supplies last.
Of course.
Always, right? All right. Next, while doing press for House of the Dragon this week, Matt Smith was on the Today Show and talked about a bunch of things, including his new role in next year's Star Wars Starfighter. Quite frankly, he didn't really say that much that's full for it, but he's echoing a lot of what other people are saying that people believe in this film and had a great time being a part of it and complimenting everyone else that's working around them. There's a lot of hype. And even cooler, when he gave this interview, he said, I might even go and watch it today. Can you believe that? There's like a rough cut, kind of rough. So, like, we're still in the beginning phases of all this. This isn't coming out for another year, but
That's
maybe.
exciting. I am cautiously excited about this film. It does seem like it's hopefully gonna be one of the good ones. You never know with Star Wars these days.
It's true. It's true. But yeah, I think they're doing a good job at kind of teasing us along, trying to get us
Hmm.
to be just right. And this is where I have to admit, every time I see that teaser picture they have with Ryan Gosling and the kid, I'm
Hmm.
always like, it's the kid from Stranger Things. But no, it's not the kid from Stranger Things. It's
Oh, it
Flynn
does look
Gray.
like the kid from Stranger Things. Look at
Yeah,
that.
is it Gatton Merzetto? I'm not the best with names, so forgive me. But yeah, so I'm like, well, this is super cool. So I like more optimism, and even you saying you have optimism, that's great.
Ooh, just a bit. Just as much as I can muster.
Because that segues well into my last story for us this week. There's a widely circulated piece going around that argues Star Wars has lost roughly 85% of its theatrical audience since Force Awakens,
Mhm.
which by the box office numbers is true, and that Lucas Films reported plan to fix it, and this is totally rumor hearsay that someone's probably making up, is targeting teens with AI assisted framework driven films.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yikes. Yikes.
Yeah. So that feels wrong, but that also feels like it's going against things of what we're getting out of like Starfighter and stuff.
Yeah, this seems like something contained to the marketing department and is hopefully not influencing creative choices.
I hope so.
It seems
I
like
hope so.
Filoni and Kennedy have got a grasp on the franchise and
Mm,
are they're not putting out bad stuff.
no. But it is an interesting point. Like the headline, obviously a big draw of like Star Wars is losing 85% of its audience is what the real clickbait headline is. And I'm like, that's pretty brutal, and I don't think very true. I think there are a lot of people out there who are still fans, even if they have their doubts. And I'm like, I feel like you could relate to this.
Yeah, so Mando and Grogu didn't get me in the theater, I'll admit.
Hmm.
I haven't seen a Star Wars movie in theater since, God, I don't even remember what Episode 9 is called.
Rise of
Rise of
Skywalker.
Skywalker. Wow. I only saw it the one time. And yeah, there is an element of lost faith here, not just because the sequel movies were poorly received, but so many film productions have either been canceled or converted into streaming shows in the last decade. And so no
Yes.
one really believes that they're going to put their best foot forward with the films right now. But I think they could. I think they could turn it around. I think that they could get some real creatives on board. I think that they could get some new actors involved, some new storylines, and actually care about it. And I think it would get a lot more people in seats. I think Mando and Grogu is fine for what it is for people who've been following the sort of Disney Plus streaming Filoni-verse
Yep.
shows, but it's not wide appeal.
It's a tough one, right? Because if you
Yeah.
don't have the context, like what are you watching?
Yeah, especially because I think, and look, you've got me going down this dark side path already of complaining
I
about
was
Star
hoping
Wars.
for it. So
Oh boy, they really butchered Mandalorian by hiding part of his story in the Boba Fett show. Like,
yeah.
it's not just like you have to watch the Mandalorian show to appreciate the movie. Like, you also have to have watched all of these other shows. And, the Marvel Universe is kind of guilty of doing this too. I think they've done it in a way that at least it still makes sense if you just watch the movies. The TV shows they're more like side plots. There's nothing necessary in the TV shows, at least yet.
It's helpful context and gives a little bit of depth to some characters, but you don't necessarily need it.
And Star Wars is always going to have this problem outside of the main Skywalker saga, is that there's just so much now, and it's all built upon itself. Um, they need more jumping off points. And yeah, I hope this new film for them is going to be a jumping off point for people, with or without AI.
Yes, agree with that. I think that's been one of my favorite arguments about what's working in these franchises and what isn't. Because as we talk about Marvel, for example, I was having a little, essentially a fireside chat, good old
Mm.
bonfires. And we were talking about how much we enjoyed the Infinity War saga and just
Oh,
how
yeah.
everything built
I could
up.
do a whole one of these about the Infinity War saga, too. We'll do that
Yeah.
later.
Oh, we should, because it's just such a good story. It's cohesive.
Mm-hmm.
People play a role consistently, and
Mm-hmm.
Marvel's just kind of floundered since, and Star Wars
Yeah.
is in that situation as well.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of not trusting creatives with these sorts of projects. I think Marvel was very lucky in having the Russo brothers and certain writers who worked on a lot of the movies in those early years to make a cohesive narrative. And right now,
Yeah.
it's just too much. It's too messy. It's too much going on.
Too much, yeah. We need a good reset, either a new era or maybe even to dig into some of the existing stories between like the books or the comics and bringing them to screen would be great.
Hmm.
But time will tell. So that's the news I found for this episode. Jade, have you heard anything else major that I missed?
No, honestly, I have not kept up with Star Wars news in a long time, and preparing for this segment today is the most I've kept up with Star Wars in a while.
Well, it's good to have you back in the universe. Clearly, all this excitement that's happening right now in this down season is just reeling you back in, I'm sure. So,
Oh yeah, for sure.
all right. From news, we go to our regular segment of me teaching about our Jedi of the Week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm the Jedi of the week. I've been running it like I've been Yoda for a minute. Putting on a clinic with my homie Obi-Wan Kenobi. Can you feel it? I'm the field like a real one. Yeah, I'm the one like my first name was Anakin. My voice got a panicking. Going hard like the mandolin. I'm manning it.
This week, we've made it to the letter W.
I'm very curious what you've dug up for this one. I could
This was,
only think of Wilhoof, who's obviously not a Jedi, but that was the only first W name I could think of.
which is impressive because that was my struggle as well. A lot of the Jedi were like first name, whatever, last name W. So it's like,
Mhm.
oh, Mace Windu,
Mhm, of course.
but technically an M, right? So,
Watto? He's got a W name.
oh, Watto would be so good. Is Watto a secret Jedi now too? We got Darth Jar Jar in the Rebuild the Galaxy series, so what's not to say?
Mhm.
No, but this week I am taking us into a bit of a mystery, a spotlight on an enigmatic figure from the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order video game known as the
Oh.
Wanderer.
I don't know anything about Fallen Order. I would love to hear about this.
Well, good. Spoilers. If you haven't played this game, that's 15 years old. No, not 15 at this point.
No, it's not that old. It's
It's
about 10 years old.
it's probably 10 years old at this point.
Yeah.
So I don't feel bad about this. So, the Wanderer, especially in the context of a Jedi, might make you think of like this rogue samurai or a peaceful survivor on the outskirts of the Jedi, maybe not even following the rigid structure of the order. But in this case, the Wanderer is an alias hiding a much darker truth. The man beneath the tattered robes originally was named Terran Malicos, but we're going to keep
Neither
saying
of those start with a W, by the way.
Wanderer. Stop it. The Wanderer served as a Jedi general during the Clone Wars. Like many others, his life was shattered by Order 66, but instead of finding peace or protecting innocence in his exile, he crash landed on the hostile dark side drenched planet of Dathomir. His survival on Dathomir absolutely broke him, though. He turned to the dark side. He killed to become the leader of the Night Brothers and took on the identity of the Wanderer. He manipulated Marin, one of the Night Sisters, and used her trauma to secure more power until Padawan Cal Kestis arrived on the planet. The Wanderer tried to seduce him to his twisted philosophy. They fought a couple of times. We'll kind of let you go from there. But what's most compelling about the Wanderer to me is I kind of think about him as a whole. You saw people like Obi-Wan or Yoda go into hiding and really embrace the light side of the Force, the good things, the will to survive, and he is the mirror to that. He went full dark side, and you could see how isolation could really turn someone into a monster.
That's fun. I've never played this game. I feel like I probably should. There seems to be a lot of lore that comes out of this game in a way that I always forget.
Yeah, good lore. Gameplay is super customizable, really nice to look at, and really, really fun characters. Highly recommend that for you.
Yeah.
So that's our Jedi of the Week. I haven't been reading Star Wars books, and it's clear that Jade isn't either. So that means we're going to move on to our discussion topic. But first, we got a little commercial break. Well, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that ad for whatever we're shills for now. includes you too, Jade. Welcome to the team.
Yeah, I think we're selling death sticks on this podcast.
Yes. We need to do that.
We need all
Someone
that death
wants to
stick
buy them.
money.
Yes. Oh, if only, right? If only. So, but anyway, you are here because you have things you love Star Wars to talk about and have been working really hard on something, and I don't want to take that from you. So lead the way, and I am here to learn, follow, and share a couple of opinions.
Okay, great. Well, I did kind of tease this by talking about watch orders. Now, you may or may not have heard of the Machete Order. James, I think you've said you've watched in the Machete Order in the
I
past.
love the Machete Order. That is my recommended order for people to go through, and I include episode 1. You
Yes.
hater.
So, for the context, of course, how do you watch? Do you watch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Do you watch 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3? Is it chronological? Is it release order? 20-ish years ago, sometime after the prequel movies came out, someone decided that the best way to watch it as a single story is episode 4, 5, and then go all the way back and watch the prequel movies, and then episode 6 at the end. You keep the Vader reveal, you keep Luke as the main character, but you still keep Return of the Jedi as the conclusion of the story. And I agree. I agree with this broadly. Oh, we're going to keep doing that.
Yes.
go back.
It's always one of my favorite things because I think it's such a great viewpoint on this. Of if you watch a Machete Order, it's Luke Skywalker's story, but if you watch chronological of 1 through 6, it's Anakin Skywalker's story, and I love that you can kind of have those two different viewpoints.
Yeah, and I think that opens this discussion well because at this point there is so much Star Wars. Even in a world with just the Disney canon, there's no way any individual can have all of Star Wars in their head at the same time. And so you have to kind of, in your mind, understand it in chunks and understand it in smaller narratives. And I really struggle with the Clone Wars. I think it's too long. And I think that there's a lot that is bad. I think there's a lot that's not necessarily bad, but pretty boring and irrelevant. And I wanted to come up with a list that can be easily digested between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. And you still kind of get all of the major points of the show, and you're still able to appreciate the satisfying narrative conclusion of Revenge of the Sith in the same way the Machete Order wants to end with Return of the Jedi.
Okay, so I have to pause you there because I feel like most people, especially in the Star Wars fan world, sing a lot of praises of the Clone Wars and don't really go against it.
They sing their praises with multiple asterisks. It's like the EU flag up there, you know? Like, oh, the Clone Wars is so great, but it's not in chronological order, so watch it like this. And also, there's a lot of episodes that are only about R2-D2. There's a lot of Jar Jar Binks episodes. There's a lot of really, really lame episodes. Even the later seasons where the animation quality has gone up significantly, there are still some episodes that are very clearly intended for the younger audience, which is fine. That is the kind of show that they were trying to make at the time. But in a world where there is so much Star Wars, and the franchise has leaned a lot more towards the audience, the adult audience in the last 10 to 15 years, I think it's important to, I enjoy watching Clone Wars from a much more focused perspective. And I want to stop here too and talk about fan edits of the Clone Wars. And I mentioned fan edits earlier too. I found a lot of people who have tried to do something similar like this, cut the Clone Wars down into a digestible show or series of movies. I want to shout out to a couple people. I found a really great re-edit of the show called The Clone Wars Refocused, made by Eddie Dean. I also find someone whose username is Smudger9. I couldn't find a name for this
Great
guy.
username. Yep.
Yeah. Who has been editing the show into series of like 2-hour movies. Those have been a huge inspiration for this, but I feel like my goal with this watch order is different from what they're trying to do. I'm cutting out a lot more than what they're cutting out. I'm focusing on some specific aspects of it. But I love their stuff, and if you're interested in Clone Wars edits as well, go ahead and check those out.
Yeah, so I got 2 questions for you. So one, do you just find those on YouTube? Like, do you just randomly search Star Wars fan, or does this need to be in like some dark area of the web as a copyright?
There's a Google Sites out there called the Galactic Network that has some information about fan edits.
So you kind of have to know where to
You
look a
kind of
little
have to
bit.
know. And in the case of some of these, I actually had to reach out to this person on Reddit and ask directly for links to their stuff. Of course, you must own all of the movies and TV shows. You know own the licensing rights. If you buy the DVDs, it's not enough to just have a Disney Plus account legally. You must own these movies in order to distribute them like this and edit them like this. Actually, you're not
Yep.
supposed to distribute them
You're
at
not
all,
supposed to
but
do any of
you're
that.
not
So
supposed to do
yeah,
any of that.
so we are not encouraging copyright infringement, but we are encouraging enjoyment of Star Wars in the way that makes sense for you, right?
I think of myself as a Star Wars revisionist, or sometimes I think of myself as a Star Wars accelerationist. Some people like to watch the edit of the original trilogies that's as close to the original release as possible. You may have heard of like the despecialized editions.
Yes.
I take the opposite approach. I watch edits of the original trilogy that add even more CGI and edits and fix mistakes that were left in the movie, clean up the audios and visuals, and kind of combine it into a modern looking Star Wars, but not in the direction that the specialized versions take them.
So I think about probably one of the most like notorious things of that came out recently was the updated fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader in episode 4. That one I feel like made it almost mainstream of people seeing that one. And that's one of those that you'd be like, yeah, I'm all for that.
Yes, I think I know which one you're talking about, and I know that the A New Hope version that I watch, it's called A New Hope Revisited by Adiwan, I think is the name of the editor. I think it's not as egregious as the one you're talking about is, but
Okay.
it does a similar thing where it re-edits, recuts the clips from that fight on the Death Star in A New Hope, and it puts some of the score from the prequel trilogy in and makes it a little bit more flashy and quick. And yeah, broadly speaking, I do like that. I like that the Imperial March is in A New Hope, even though it wasn't written until Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense to have that score throughout the whole franchise, and I don't think that our enjoyment of the film should be impeded by the fact that that score just wasn't written yet.
That feels like a good one. All right. So last question before I let you get into this context.
Right. Well,
someone-
actually, I have more pretext as well, but
Oh,
go on.
That's fine. I feel like we need context for your Star Wars affinity. I hate asking about favorites because I feel like that changes and it's in the moment. But if you could pick something akin to the favorite, unedited, unchanged, like is there a movie or a series in Star Wars that you're like, that is the go-to for me? That is the
That's a
one
good
I
point.
get the most enjoyment out of.
This is some good context to understand my opinion of Star Wars. That's a good point. Empire Strikes Back is the best one. I don't think there's any way to argue around that. It's just full of emotion and heart and action and love and attention, and it's a great moment in the series. All the actors are at their best. It's the best score. It's just so easy to pick Empire Strikes Back as the best one. I like Revenge of the Sith. I have a lot of trouble with the other two prequel movies, and we'll get into that too. But I think Revenge of the Sith does a great job doing what it set out to do, as to be this climactic moment of Anakin falling in the end of the Clone Wars. I watch that one all the time. That's great. And, of course, Andor, season 1 and 2, are incredible and some of the best things that exist in all of Star Wars canon. Rogue One can be included in that too. I like the way that Rogue One turned out, even if it's quite different from what they intended to make at the beginning. I think Andor makes Rogue One a lot better in hindsight. And speaking of watch orders, I think it's very fun to kind of watch Star Wars with Andor season 1, 2, Rogue One, A New Hope. Like that on its own is its own story.
That is a great story arc.
And that's really just focusing on the Death Star, the story of the Death Star.
Look, you're reframing things again. I love this.
That's the only way you can really appreciate Star Wars. No one can have all of the canon in their head at once. There is only everyone's individual imagination of the Star Wars canon. There is no universal Star Wars canon.
True. And what's not to love about little stories, little pieces of the world, like little vignettes of what we can see and experience and appreciate.
So allow me to focus your attention.
Yes, bring me along.
Yes. So, have you seen the newest episode of Clone Wars? It came out quite a bit after all the other ones, but it's very good.
Is this like the end of the Bad Batch kind of arcs with inside of it? And then they went
It's the Bad
to
Batch, it's the Ahsoka on her own episodes, and then
Yep.
importantly, it's the episodes that take place concurrently with Revenge of the Sith and Order
Yeah.
66.
Yes, I am very familiar with those.
Yes. So last year, I found a fan edit of Revenge of the Sith that edits those last Clone Wars episodes that take place concurrently into the film, kind of interstitially, and it makes Ahsoka into a secondary protagonist in this movie. And there's a lot of scenes in the Clone Wars episodes that set that up. There are scenes that lead directly into a scene in Revenge of the Sith and then directly back into that Clone Wars episode where they're almost seamless when you watch it all together, other than the fact that some scenes are animated and some scenes are live action.
Which is so impressive because Ahsoka does not exist in episodes 1, 2, and 3.
But it's so clear that it just makes that story so much richer. They focus on this narrative of Ahsoka trying to talk to Anakin. Obi-Wan is sort of begging her, please talk some sense into him. I don't even care if you agree with the Jedi Council or not, but like he needs to talk to someone right now. And she tries a couple of times, and their paths just are never able to cross as he's making that final descent into the dark side.
Yeah, and that's such a different take because otherwise we're watching this and it's like Anakin is just isolated other than the Emperor's influence on him. We never see Anakin really interacting with Obi-Wan in a way that makes sense. Padme's just kind of around, but again, he's guarded all of that from her, and so that's fascinating. That's like there is someone in the universe that cares about him.
Yeah, I think the Clone Wars, it's hard to deny that the Clone Wars is one of the best parts of the Star Wars franchise, even if a lot of the episodes are difficult to get through.
That's your opinion, and I appreciate you for it. So.
Well,
I need to rewatch him again to really get that understanding. But that
yeah,
first
maybe
time
you need
through
to
is just
rewatch
like
him.
I'm just such a sucker for Star Wars things. So it's
Even the
hard
Jar
for
Jar
me to get over
episodes,
that.
James. Even the Jar Jar ones.
Episodes.
Even the R2 ones where he's got his own little army of droids that are loyal to him and they do like 18 missions. You like those?
Those are harder for me, but I also was a person that didn't like Wally the first time I saw it because I have
You
a hard
didn't like
time.
Wally the first. We'll have to get into that some other day.
Yeah, I like it now, but that first time I'm like, I
That's
don't
fair.
know how I
That's
feel about
fair.
like silent protagonist characters and how much there just isn't. So like we talked about this a little bit on Rob and I about Mandalorian and Grogu and the arc of Grogu and his kind of like alone time in the swamp. I had a really hard time with that.
Interesting. Okay. I think I understand where you're coming from with that, but also we don't have time to get into this.
We don't.
All right, Revenge of the Sith. So I saw this cut that added those episodes, and I really loved it. But of course, those last episodes also wrap up the Mandalore plotline with Bo-Katan, wraps up Darth Maul and what he's been up to and how he survived Order 66, and is really an ending to Rex and Fives' relationship throughout this whole Clone Wars. So there's a lot of other storylines that are wrapped up in this, more than just Ahsoka. And really, if you have not very much context for the Clone Wars, seeing Ahsoka in these episodes is a little confusing if you don't know how she left and her relationship with Anakin and the Jedi Temple at large. And so what I wanted was a way to get through the Clone Wars in a way that you can appreciate those last episodes and Revenge of the Sith together. How do we catch all of those plot lines together without getting lost in the weeds?
And that's hard to say because there's so much out there and probably like 2 minutes in this episode that would be great to include, but the other 18 minutes don't matter.
Yeah, I will say this list here is sort of easy to watch in the sense that it's just full episodes. You put them on Disney Plus, you could just watch them straight through. I would love to make a big edit and kind of condense them into, 2-hour file sizes and cut out all the extra intros and the voiceovers and the credit sequences and just make it into. I don't have that kind of editing skill. That's something that can come later.
Let alone the time.
This is more of a watch order than a fan edit, but I would love to make this into a fan edit myself someday.
Yeah.
All right.
Someday, big dreams. I love it. So, okay, I think we've probably danced around it enough.
No, there's some more dancing to do.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I'm trying to make a direct route Chicago to LA, Route 66, Attack of the Clones to Revenge of the Sith, ending in Order 66. We only need what's important. So I'm going to first talk about what's not included in this list.
Okay.
Hondo Anaka is not here.
I'm still so bitter about this.
I can't. None of the episodes with him are particularly important, except one, and this is maybe one of the most glaring omissions in this whole list, is the episode with Maul and Savage Press sort of starting their criminal empire. This is the first episode of season 5. I've cut this episode. This episode only makes sense if you know Hondo, if you've seen all those episodes with him and Obi-Wan and the relationship that they have together. It's seriously, we don't have time. This order is already 17 hours long, and I think that's a lot to ask of someone in like a long weekend or over the course of a week. We gotta save time. We don't have time for Hondo.
And Hondo hasn't shown up in any movies or really any sort of like live action anyway.
He's on the ride.
Yeah, okay, yeah, he's fantastic in Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run.
Oh, you used its Christian name. I appreciate that.
I did. Full government name. And even in the recast where it's Mandalorian and Grogu now, still doing his thing. But people going into Disneyland and going to Batu probably have no idea who Hondo is unless they're actually involved in it. So
exactly.
I understand. He is one of my favorites because he lives in this gray area so dang well. If you listen to Fantasyland Draft League, where Rob and I pick Star Wars characters, Hondo was the captain of my Scoundrel team. So
wow, I guess that makes sense. And like, I want to make a clarification here that the episodes I'm cutting and the characters I'm cutting from this is not because I think that you shouldn't watch them at all as Clone Wars episodes. If you want more Clone Wars, there's so much more Clone Wars, and there are so many lists online that have, you know, just the good episodes, just the good story arcs. But this is not just the good story arcs. These are just the story arcs that matter for Order 66.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. That is a good caveat that I will be less upset that Hondo's not on this list because I can go and make my Hondo list and feel a lot better about it.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to watch the Hondo cut. Yeah. We'll do that afterwards.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Next
one. Cad Bane is not here.
Ooh, that's a bold choice for Filoni lovers.
It is. My distaste for Cad Bane is not as strong as Hondo. However, looking at all of the episodes that have Cad Bane in them, it wasn't even like hard to remove those episodes. Absolutely none of them matter to any of the episodes that I have included.
Do you have any of the bounty hunters in?
No, and that's my next step, is that Boba Fett and all of that bounty hunter gang, Bosk and Dengar, Aurra Singh, none of those characters are included in this.
Okay.
Now, they do show up as a bit of a cameo, I think, when in one of the Maul episodes when he goes to Mount Hutta. I think they show some of the bounty hunters there, but like they can just be slightly fancy background characters. They're not named, you know. They look cool. They fight Maul for a bit. You don't need to know who they are.
Yeah, and Filoni's making them a little bit relevant with Mandalorian stuff, with Cad Bane showing up there, with Embo showing up, but other than like if you're in that arc, Sam Wessel and Jango Fett and Boba Fett are the only ones that really get good screen time besides the couple standing with Vader.
Yeah, I considered including Boba Fett from the perspective that the first movie, Attack of the Clones, which is the first movie in this watch order, we'll get to that. Yep. Jango Fett and Boba Fett are a central piece of that story, but I didn't think that any of the Boba Fett episodes were really mattered enough with the other characters. Now, there is the episode where Ventress becomes a bounty hunter and is hanging out with all of them. That episode has been cut as well.
Yeah, again, not that necessary, right? So
nope, and it goes straight into the next one, and you don't really need an explanation of why she's chasing after Savage. I think the show has made it evident.
Yeah, I think we have good ideas of what the deal is with Savage and Maul and Ventress' relationship with them. So
now, one of the sort of sadder omissions here is a lot of the Padme-focused episodes. I don't have her episodes with the Buntaris and the Separatists. I don't have her episodes with Rush Clovis. And as much as Padme is central to the Anakin storyline and ultimately the Clone Wars, I just didn't feel like any of them were worth the time spent on that relationship because they ultimately don't affect their relationship in those movies.
That's true. And I think that's kind of interesting because I feel like as you've talked through your idea of this, especially like that super fan cut of Revenge of the Sith,
Mhm.
like this is kind of shaping up of a lot of Anakin's story and his experience and those around him. And
Mhm.
him not knowing what Padme's doing or not aware of that kind of makes that disconnect and his drive to keep him alive a little bit more interesting.
Mm. I'm glad. Thank you. I'm glad that you've justified my choice.
I mean, you're gonna have to make a choice regardless, right? And so if it's not the Padme story, and we know where her tragic end shows up, then it doesn't make sense. You don't need those details until someone like Rush Clovis becomes a more important figure, and that's just not gonna happen.
Yeah. Now, in cutting Lux Bonteri, who has this sort of romantic relationship with Ahsoka, which I have other opinions about, I've had to remove the first episode with Bo-Katan. It's a weird season 4 episode that comes out of nowhere, and Bo-Katan is just kind of introduced as the second in command of Death Watch, and
Hmm.
Ahsoka and Lux get into some hijinks. But there's no need to introduce Bo-Katan at that moment, and it's not worth explaining who Lux Bonteri is to get there.
Yep. Again, that would have just been more backstory and exposition, and you're already at 17 hours, cut down from wherever you are. So someone's got to go.
Oh yeah, I didn't actually look how long the Clone Wars actually is, but it's like 15 to 20 episodes per season and 6, 7 seasons. There's a lot to get through, and I have only kept what I feel keeps the narrative focused and exciting all the way through.
Yeah, seeing your cut, it's like you've almost cut down to basically like one season of an animated TV show mixed in with the movies, maybe a little bit longer. But
There are
like,
36 Clone Wars episodes included on this list, so I think
yeah,
it's close to 2 seasons.
yeah, okay, fair. So I'm bad at knowing how long seasons are. I grew up, my first like cartoon anime TV show was Pokemon, and I'm pretty sure they do like 30 some per season. But
Yeah, and
that,
obviously it's changed a lot from the writer strike days of 22 episodes down
oh
to
my
like,
gosh,
6 per 3
8,
years.
10, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, 100%. So, all right, what other glaring omissions you got? What else do I get to complain about?
Last one that is kind of obvious, maybe, is a lot of the big war arcs are not included here. So Ryloth, the big second Geonosis fight, the Mon
Yeah.
Calamari arc, the Onderon stuff with Saw Gerrera, those are interesting, and those really make the show feel like they're a war anthology. And I think they're important for a Clone Wars watch through. Like if
Yep.
I was making a list of like these are the good Clone Wars episodes, I'd include a lot of those in them. But again, I look at them and there's nothing that is going to be relevant later. If you want to watch Rebels, you can watch the Ryloth ones. If you want to watch Rogue One and Andor, you can watch the Onderon ones. But that's not what we're here to do.
Yeah. So you're making this argument of we can just appreciate that the war is happening and we're aware of it, or there's enough nods to it based on your watch order that we don't need to see that the war is happening. You can just be aware of it.
Exactly. And there are enough there are enough episodes that are about the clones and about specific battles that we don't need all of that here.
All right, all right, all right. I mean, like we've been saying, something's got to go until you want to just sit down and watch the whole series as is, and we can go with that. Okay. You've made a lot of cuts. You promised a lot of cuts, and you've given a lot of opinions on your cuts. So like we're doing good. Like I'm still only upset about Hondo, but we've justified it, so I don't need to be that upset about it because of what you're trying to do here, and I like that.
If I had time and if I cut this into actual edits someday, I would love to make like roadside attractions. It's like, oh, if you care about Hondo, you make a left here, get
Oh
off Route
my
66
gosh,
and visit the Hondo stop. Or like visit
optional
the Padme
3-hour
stop.
movies. Yes.
Yeah, I think I would do that someday, but like again, we don't have time for that. I'm just gonna get through the meat and potatoes of the Clone Wars and something that someone could actually get through in a sensible amount of time.
That's really cool because that's like the optional like side quest lore dump of like, do you want to know more about this character, how that fits? I
Mhm.
love that concept so much.
I didn't have enough time to see that to reality by the time we recorded this podcast, so
No,
so I don't have
no.
more about that, but it is an idea I've had.
Sometimes you just need the idea, and it's like, oh, once we finish that main project,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm so involved in this.
Yeah, well, once you watch through my whole order, I'll come back on the podcast and you can talk about it.
Absolutely. It's only 17 hours, so
It's only
I'll
17
I'll
hours.
start now and we can record on 2 days from now, right?
Well, yeah, sure. Jeez. I haven't even rewatched all the episodes on this list. And some of them I watched recently and I didn't rewatch them in time for this.
Okay. That's fine. Like you
All
said,
right, all right.
lot of Star Wars, lots of canon.
Let's get into it. I've broken it down into 3 acts. First act is 6.5 hours long. And of course, it starts with Attack of the Clones. Now, immediately, I have to justify why Phantom Menace isn't on this list. It's for a very similar reason that I don't think Phantom Menace is on my Machete Order watch list. I like to watch the movies 4, 5, 2, 3, 6 without Phantom Menace. And I think of Phantom Menace like Tales of the Jedi. You can watch it. There's a lot of cool backstory in it if you want to know how they found Anakin, if you want to know how Obi-Wan's mentor dies, if you want to see where Darth Maul came from, sure. But they talk about all of the events of Phantom Menace, not only in Attack of the Clones, but in every Clone Wars episode that's included on this list, that it's not important. This is a watch order for the Clone Wars, and we start with the beginning of the Clone Wars.
Which is the part that makes sense when the clones really show up, and we could go from there.
And I do have one little edit here that you could do yourself on Disney Plus if you really wanted to. And this ties in some of the Phantom Menace events back in. Attack of the Clones, you watch it all the way until Obi-Wan gets captured on Geonosis, and Dooku gives his villain monologue of like, did you know that the Senate is actually controlled by a Sith Lord, and I don't like him very much, and maybe the two of us should team up? And Obi-Wan's like, why would I trust you? And immediately after that scene, Dooku says, all right, fine, we're going to have to do this war then. Cut back 10 years to the Tales of the Jedi episode that takes place during Phantom Menace when Dooku finds out that Qui-Gon is dead. This episode shows Dooku deleting Kamino from the Jedi Archive, killing Yaddle, who had uncovered his involvement in this plot, and really cementing Dooku's fall to the dark side. And it really contextualizes it in the world in which his Padawan was killed, and that he believes all of this is happening for some greater good that is yet to come. And I think it makes Dooku a much more interesting villain, showing that as much as he does all of these evil acts, and sometimes he's cartoonishly evil, he does have some kind of motivation that shows up in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. It's clear that he doesn't want to work with Palpatine, with Sidious.
Dooku's an incredible villain. Like if you like Dooku as much as you're talking about, and you haven't listened to the like short audio book play, Dooku Lost, like it just adds so much more depth to Dooku, and just keeps on making me like him more and more. And I want to talk about this a lot more at some point, but I haven't quite figured out the good context. But I've loved that as Star Wars has released more and more prequel content, they have created more and more of this vacuum of like, there's not good versus evil like we get in the original trilogy. Like it's portrayed as good versus evil in the movies, but as we add more and more, it's like maybe the Separatists were kind of right.
Sure. Oh yeah. I mean, even the Clone Wars touches on that a lot. And I think sort of the theme of the Clone Wars is that the Jedi were already lost, and the war is just a mirror held to their face.
Yes, very much.
Well, anyway, Attack of the Clones, you're welcome to add a little flashback sequence of Dooku falling to the dark side from Tales of the Jedi. I believe it's episode 4, season 1. Yep. But you watch the rest of Attack of the Clones all the way through.
Okay. Very cool addition. Love it.
Now on to the issue of the Clone Wars movie, which I think is probably the worst piece of media in this entire watch order, and maybe even of the whole show.
Of modern Star Wars, that is a really weak entry. Yeah.
Yes. Unfortunately, there's no other way to introduce Ahsoka into the story other than this.
Yes.
So what I recommend doing is, at a very minimum, just watching the first 30 minutes of this movie. All of the stuff that takes place on Christophsis, of Anakin meeting Ahsoka and her kind of proving her worth, that's it. As soon as they start talking about Jabba's baby,
Stinky,
you can turn it off. Now, I did mention one of the Clone Wars fan edits earlier the Clone Wars Refocused, they edited that bits of that movie and some of the Clone Wars episodes that take place on that same planet, Christophsis, into a single 30-minute episode that introduces Ahsoka a lot better. So if you have access to the Clone Wars Refocused, you can watch their first episode, which is called The New Padawan, and fantastic. Cuts out all the Baby Jabba stuff, just focuses on Ahsoka, adds some extra Clone Wars scenes. Fantastic. If not, just stop the movie after a bit.
It'll be just fine. You'll still get the same context, right?
Yeah. And it introduces you to clone Captain Rex, who is part of Anakin's squadron, who becomes the main character for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you cut the Clone Wars movie that way, it actually removes Ventress from the movie as well.
Oh, gosh.
And so she doesn't get introduced until later in this series. But if you watch that edited version from Clone Wars Refocused, that's part of what it adds from those Clone Wars episodes. It gives Ventress an introduction there. But if you cut the Clone Wars movie, she doesn't get introduced for another 2 episodes, basically.
That's probably fine.
Yeah. So we're still in Act 1. We've had Attack of the Clones with a little flashback. We've had the first 30 minutes of the Clone Wars movie. And then what a lot of people think are some of the best episodes of Clone Wars. Season 3, Episode 1, Clone Cadets. Season 1, Episode 5, Rookies. Season 3, Episode 2, ARC Troopers. And weirdly, it's kind of out of order like that because they created these characters in Season 1, and then they gave them a backstory in Season 3, and then a sort of sequel in Season 3 as well.
I was going to say, are you throwing a flashback in on me here?
This is not a flashback. This is the way the chronology actually works out. And this is the story of the Domino Squad, who are Fives and Echo and the other 3, Heavy, Droid Bait, and Cut Up. They died during this series, but Echo and Fives are the 2 who survive this storyline.
Yeah,
so Clone Cadets
tragic. So
yeah, Clone Cadets is on Kamino, of the 5 of them passing their sort of final exam to become soldiers. Rookies is kind of this almost a bottle episode of the 5 of them defending a base against the Separatists, and 3 of them die, except Echo and Fives. And then at the end of that, they become ARC Troopers and they join Anakin's 501st. And then ARC Troopers, the 3rd episode in this group, Ventress attacks Kamino, and so Fives and Echo get to return to Kamino and defend it, and it kind of wraps up itself very nicely.
Yeah, good little bit about these clones that don't get a lot of movie time, but pretty essential into painting Anakin and Obi-Wan as the generals they are.
Yeah, and I love that the Clone Wars focuses on the clones being, humans with personalities. Like, that's clearly one of the major themes of the series. And Fives becomes an incredibly vital character at the end of this series. So it's very important that we get him set up at the beginning.
Yep.
Moving on. We're jumping straight to Season 3 with the Citadel episodes. Season 3, Episode 18, 19, and 20, the Citadel Counterattack and Citadel Rescue. Do you remember these ones?
I don't know if I remember these bluntly.
So Tarkin is in this episode, a very young Tarkin. Anakin and Obi-Wan are sent to infiltrate a separatist citadel, a prison system, where Jedi Master Even Peel and his captain, I think Captain Tarkin, are being held prisoner. They have some hyperspace lane MacGuffin knowledge in their brain that they're being tortured for. And so Anakin and Obi-Wan and Rex and Fives and Echo, who have just been introduced, they all get sent on this like undercover prison break mission, which is very fun. The whole episode arc is very exciting. It's also a really great Ahsoka story. Ahsoka is explicitly forbidden from coming, and she sneaks on board at the very last moment anyway.
Like she does, yeah.
Like she does. And the whole series is about Anakin and Ahsoka kind of learning to trust each other. It's a good kind of stepping off point from that movie of their relationship with each other. I'll make a note here too. I did kind of forget this in the what we're excluding. I did exclude the Mortis episodes from this storyline. This is about narratively when those episodes would take place. And I did watch them again to make sure, and I can honestly say that they are not very important and worse than I remembered them being.
Because Mortis is the father, the son, the daughter, whatever.
Yes, that planet of the Force where Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka get stranded. And it's sort of this metaphysical explanation that the father keeps the light side daughter and the dark side son in balance, and that Anakin is supposed to take his place. Really, the only interesting thing that happens is that Anakin learns he's the chosen one, and it honestly doesn't come up again until Revenge of the Sith. So it's not
that
super
important.
important.
And just a lot of exposition. So yeah, okay, yep, I agree with that one.
A lot of people like that the same amount as the Citadel episodes, and so I'm just here to justify that I think the Citadel actually has some like narrative importance, whereas the Mortis episodes, again, that can be a road stop. If you're interested in the sort of metaphysical belief in the Force, you can watch those episodes. You know, you can do what you want with your life.
And I love these episodes where we see like figureheads of the Empire working for the Republic, of how it pivoted. You know, Tarkin.
Yes.
When you see the episodes with like Yularen, that's a big part of things as well. It's just so interesting of like you watch them fall and become the Empire and belief of evil, but they don't necessarily see themselves as evil.
Yeah, I know that Padme's guard captain, I don't remember his name. He's got the eye
Captain
patch.
Panaka.
Yes, he becomes an Imperial,
Yep.
you know, captain or admiral or whatever.
Yep.
And more to the point, in these episodes of the Citadel, Tarkin and Anakin really bond over their shared love of fascism through this storyline, and sort of hint at the idea that they have a similar belief that the Jedi are too pacifistic in their beliefs, or at least that pacifism is contradictory.
Yeah, they see that they're wasting value, basically, right?
And so that's Act 1 so far is Attack the Clones, that Clone Wars movie, those episodes introducing Fives and Echo, the Citadel episodes, which, by the way, Echo actually dies in this episode, this arc. It's almost off screen. Fives has a moment where he shouts, "Echo, no!" And like that's about all of the emotion that they give to it. Yeah, it's actually pretty sad that they don't focus on it more. But we move on to the Umbara episodes. This is all the way in season 4 now. We're skipping around a lot, but the intention of this first act is to focus on the 501st, the clones that are part of that, Rex and Fives and all the other ones we've named. And now the Umbara episodes introduce Jesse, introduce Tup, some of these other characters who will continue to be important. And yeah, the Umbara episodes are just really good episodes. They're surprisingly good episodes.
It's some of the best writing in the Clone Wars, 100%. It's such a compelling narrative. It's such a great way to paint not all Jedi are the same. It's just so good.
Yeah, I could wax poetic about the Umbara episodes. I feel like I don't need to on this Star Wars podcast, but
no.
Obviously it's some great context for the Clone Wars that this war is kind of not just corrupting Jedi, but bringing out the worst in some of these Jedi.
Yes.
And, you know, reminding us that these clones are individuals who love each other and want to live and are not just droids. Although, if I ever come back on this podcast, I am going to talk about droid rights and sentience.
You're such an L337. I love it.
We don't have time for that. That's Act 1. So we've got Attack of the Clones, a bit of the Clone Wars movie, and then we've got 3 distinct arcs. The Domino Squad introduction, the Citadel, Umbara, and it stays with the 501st pretty much this whole time.
Yeah, so it's nice because you're giving the clones their introduction. You're introducing some key clones. You bring in Ahsoka and get the relationship a little bit more with Obi-Wan and Anakin, and then you give a glimpse into the war and some of the best writing that exists inside of the war, and kind of mixes that together. So it feels like a good, clean arc of like, this is what we are seeing on this side of the war.
And I think some of the other Clone Wars watch orders struggle with, or maybe what I struggle with those, is that when you put it in a more chronological order, you got to get through some stinkers. Season 1 and 2, there's a lot of, it's really, like I said, it's hard to get through. And if you're waiting and waiting and waiting, 20, 30 hours for the good episodes, you're not going to get there.
Yeah. I mean, that is a genuine problem, I feel like, with a lot of shows. Of season 1 is always rough. But if you can get through it, you can get some really good stuff. So
yeah. Well, you don't have to subject yourself to that. You can take Route 66.
Yes. Enjoy the scenic drive.
Act 2. Effectively, Act 2 is all of the Maul and Mandalore episodes, because that is really its own story. This act is a lot shorter than the other two. It's 4.5 hours, but it is condensed in a way that feels easy to watch, I think.
Okay. So totally pivoting, new characters, new arc, new episode.
Yep. We go all the way back to season 2, for the first Mandalore episodes. That's season 2, episode 12, 13, and 14. The Mandalore Plot, Voyage of Temptation, Duchess of Mandalore.
Yep.
These are older, these episodes. These are the only season 2 episodes included in this watch order. And the animation quality is a little jarring, especially when you've just watched the Umbara episodes. I think this is the most jarring leap in this whole watch order, but it didn't make sense to put them anywhere earlier in this order, especially when now we're going to be focusing on Mandalore, the Death Watch, Pre Vizsla, the Darksaber, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So we get that introduction here. We get Obi-Wan's relationship with Satine and her sort of pacifist belief. She's trying to keep Mandalore out of the war, but there's this militant faction of Mandalorians, the Death Watch, who are trying to unseat her. And Obi-Wan is ultimately successful in kicking them out for the time being.
Yep, which is good. That's what we want. So good, clean, good.
Move into season 3 again, and we're back to Ventress. These are the season 3 episode 12, 13, 14, Night Sisters, Monster, and Witches of the Mist. So Ventress is betrayed by Dooku, who orders her killed. She returns to her home on Dathomir. She tries to get revenge and fails. Mother Talzin comes up with a plan to create Savage Opress, who will be a sleeper agent and sort of attack Dooku. That plan fails. Ventress does not get her revenge, and Savage flees to find his long-lost brother, Maul.
Very, very important detail for a lot of Maul's story.
And then we jump straight to season 4, episodes 19, 21, and 22.
Yeah, who needs episode 20?
19 is the one where the Dathomirian witches are sort of genocided by the Separatists. Dooku's had enough of them, and Talzin and Ventress are basically the only Night Sisters to survive. Brothers is the one where Savage finds Maul on that junk planet and is like, brother, we have to get revenge. Yes, we must get our revenge. And then the next episode's called Revenge, where they try to get the revenge, and they don't. Like many lightsaber fights in this entire series, nobody actually wins, and they just all have to flee each other.
Yeah. Which is fascinating that they're all just like, I'm tired, or I see that we're not getting anywhere and there's other things to do. So, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of lightsaber fights, even just in this watch order. But these 6 episodes, even though they're across 2 different seasons, season 3 and 4, I think this actually works as its own 6-episode introduction to Maul and Savage arc. And one of the other fan edits that I mentioned earlier, the Smudger 9 edits, episode 5, Rise of the Dark Side, is actually these 6 episodes cut together without the credits and the opening dialogue or the introductions. And it's really satisfying to watch as a 2-hour movie. I really recommend that if you can get your hands on that. And it even takes
strong validation. We like that.
It even takes those 2 episodes where the Dathomir witches are getting massacred and Maul and Savage are finding each other, and kind of mixes them together and overlaps them into an A plot and a B plot. And it's so fun to watch. It's way better like that than watching them as 6 individual episodes. But of course, this is meant to be easy to get through, so you can just watch them on Disney Plus if you need to.
Yep.
And then we end this arc, this act, with the season 5 episodes in which Maul and Savage are found by Death Watch. They make a sort of tentative alignment to take over Mandalore together. Maul builds his crime syndicate. They take over Mandalore. Maul says, surprise, I'm going to kill you now. He fights Pre Vizsla. He takes the Darksaber. He lures Obi-Wan to Mandalore. He kills Satine in front of her. Obi-Wan escapes with Bo-Katan. That's sort of all of the Mandalore story.
Yeah, that really winds it down in the Clone Wars, and anything that would be probably useful ahead of like Mandalorian and where that show's kind of explored it as well. So
yeah, and there are a lot of episodes about Mandalore that are not included here. There's the ones with Satine's nephew Corky. Those are not included here. There are a lot more Ventress episodes that are not included in here. Like I said, the Bounty Hunter one, that's what the season 4 episode 20 that's been cut from here. And of course, Ventress doesn't really get a satisfying finale in the show anyway, and that had to be done through, is that Dark Disciple, I think, right?
The book Dark Disciple, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, such a good read.
So, I mean, even if I wanted to make this watch order more about Ventress, you can't because it's a book.
Because
So
you have to add the book, yeah.
yeah, that's one of those roadside attractions.
Yeah, because yeah, you're right. Because they took that as unproduced scripts and put it together.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a good book. You should obviously include books into the mix of this, and that'll make it so much better. And suddenly it's a 40-hour stint because you have to read a book.
Exactly. All right. So the final act, Act 3 here, we're back to 7 hours, so it's quite long. But is pretty straightforward. Is the last episodes of season 5, where Ahsoka is implicated in a terrorist attack on the Jedi Temple, and a lot of back and forth about who's to blame, a lot of running around. Ultimately, we find out that her maybe girlfriend, Barriss Offee, has been framing her and impersonated Ventress at one point. And although Ahsoka is cleared at the end, she decides to leave the Jedi Order.
That's such a huge arc and such a good bit of story of showing the distrust that people have amongst each other as like the tension of war exists.
And that's exactly what this third act is focusing on, is this idea that although the Republic may be winning technically, there's so much internal struggle with the Republic and the Jedi and the military that it's all kind of falling apart. Nobody can trust each other. The Jedi are starting to understand that they have no idea what's going on, that they've completely misjudged this whole situation. And really the first key to that is Ahsoka's trial and leaving. And as a fun callback, Tarkin is in these episodes as well and is overseeing the trial from the military perspective.
That's right. Yep.
So it makes those Citadel episodes worth it.
Yeah, because nobody knows who Tarkin is, so we really need that.
And then we move on to the first episodes of season 6, episodes 1 through 4, The Unknown Conspiracy, Fugitive Orders. These are about Tup, who was introduced in the Umbara episodes. Mm-hmm. He has a sort of mental health issue, and he kills a Jedi. And his friend Fives is desperate to find out what happened. He goes to Camino to get the body interrogated. That's not the right word. Investigated, maybe. They examine the body, and as Fives tries to find out the truth, he uncovers this great mystery, this great cover-up that goes all the way to the top. And he tries to get his information back to Coruscant, and Palpatine frames him and chases him off and drugs him, and eventually he's shot by another clone, and he dies in Rex's arms before he can explain that all of the clones have been installed with inhibitor chips that do something. Who knows what they just do?
Yeah, great another layer of the mystery of like, you got to get this out of your head.
And then before we get to Revenge of the Sith, I have one standalone episode here, season 6, episode 10, The Lost Ones. This episode is about the Jedi find Cypher Dyas's crashed ship. And it is the thread that they had been missing for the entire Clone Wars of where did the clones come from? Who is this Tyrannus? Why did Cypher Dyas order these clones? And they finally connect all of the dots as Dooku shows up and reveals himself as Tyrannus, the man who ordered the clones. And Obi-Wan connects those dots that were there from Attack of the Clones when Dooku told him that this is all beyond your comprehension, and Obi-Wan wasn't ready to believe it. He believes it now, and he brings it back to the Jedi Council, and they decide not to tell anyone because they would lose public faith that their entire army was orchestrated by the enemy.
Right. As if they aren't already losing faith, but...
Exactly. The Jedi hold on to whatever they can have in these final moments of the Clone Wars, which leads us into Revenge of the Sith. And it actually starts with the first episode of this Clone Wars series. So this is season 7, episode 9, 10, 11, and 12, I believe. Ahsoka...
Because we're not just watching Revenge of the Sith in the movie here.
Yes. So ideally you find yourself a cut of Revenge of the Sith with these Clone Wars sprinkled in. But I think if you were to do it on Disney Plus, you would just watch the first 2 episodes first, and then like the first half of Revenge of the Sith, and then the next 2 episodes of the next half of Revenge of the Sith. I haven't done the math on this because I've been watching the edited version, but It's so much better when you mix in those episodes into the movie instead of just watching them separately. You could also just watch all of Revenge of the Sith first and then go back and watch those Clone Wars episodes.
Treating them like flashbacks instead of like intermixed parts of the story.
Yeah, but you know, the long and short of it is Ahsoka has met up with Bo-Katan. They want the Republic's help to kick Maul off of Mandalore. Anakin and Obi-Wan are called away to rescue Palpatine, who's been kidnapped above Coruscant, and that is the events that lead us into Revenge of the Sith. And so Ahsoka is sort of on her own with whatever troops that Anakin could lend her, including Rex and Jesse and everyone else who's survived. And then Order 66 happens, and she is able to remove the inhibitor chip out of Rex, but all of the other clones die in this endeavor, and it's very sad. And then, Anakin becomes Darth Vader, and he kills all those kids, and Padme dies, and that's the story. That's it. That's the Clone Wars, everybody.
That's the Clone Wars. You've just explained 17 hours of content in like an hour.
Yeah. Hopefully you get the gist that this is a condensed story about Anakin, but also his clones who fought with him, his Padawan who left him, and Maul, the man who's been sort of haunting this narrative the whole time.
Do you think one of them takes over as like a main character or this person's story in terms of your accelerated view of this content, or do you kind of blend it in nicely that there isn't like one key person?
Yeah, I don't think there is a key person. I don't think you can narrow it down to more than just these are the important things that happen to Anakin and Obi-Wan. Whereas the Anakin stuff is his clones in Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan is Satine and Mandalore and Maul.
Sure. So you see how the world around them influences the people that they're becoming.
Exactly. And we get little glimpses of the Jedi losing their way, and we get little glimpses of the Separatist plot. But ultimately, this is about the two of them and the endeavors they go through to get to their ultimate tragedy of Order 66.
Mm-hmm. And just the key points. So easier than sitting and watching, 6 seasons of the Clone Wars and trying to remember little bits and pieces of, oh yeah, they mentioned this in season 2.
Absolutely, yeah. And like, wait, do I need to remember this Jar Jar episode? You don't. I promise you don't.
Jar Jar is so important to Attack of the Clones and sparking all the power of Palpatine.
I know. It's so
but that
stupid,
could have been
though.
anyone. So
oh god, I think actually the hardest part of this watch order when I was going through it again was watching Attack of the Clones. It's just so on the nose. Like, oh, if only Senator Amidala was here, she would vote to give executive powers to Chancellor Palpatine.
Yeah.
Even though everything she's ever said up to that point has been in opposition to that idea.
Yeah, it feels like there had to be like a Sith mind trick mixed into that one, right?
Oh boy, yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, we enjoy Star Wars in spite of George Lucas.
yeah, I suppose. So I don't know. I nostalgia is so strong in me with all the prequels that it's hard for me to see the flaws quite as strong as you do.
Nostalgia is strong in my family. My father has it, I have it, and you have it.
You got it. That is exactly the truth. So it is unfortunately kind of how it goes.
Yeah, I envy people who love Star Wars. I wish I could have as pure a love as you do.
I mean, you could. You just got to put all your judgment away and accept that more of it just means good stuff, right?
And that's all the time we have today.
No, I got to ask you more about this. Have you?
Yes, please do.
Have you made like other watch orders or thought about other kind of pathways? Like, tell me about your joy of putting this together.
Not for Star Wars. This is the first time I've really been inspired to do this with Star Wars, and it was because of the Revenge of the Sith cut that I watched that had those Clone Wars episodes in. Because I watched it with my partner, and they were like, "I want to understand what the heck's going on here." Because if you just watch that, if you have no context for Clone Wars, it's like no way you can enjoy any of that. So like, I tried to go back and find some episodes that were important enough to watch, and that has been stewing in my head for the last year. But I brought up the Infinity Saga, the Marvel Infinity Saga before. And actually, I did back then write up a watch order for that series, because I think that there's a way to watch it that's not just the order in which the MCU movies came out. That makes it a lot more interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously part of the challenge is when they drop in the post-credit scenes in Marvel, that it's like, well, of course you have to watch them in order because they keep on hinting towards that, but you
Yeah,
take those out,
exactly.
you
So
can.
those you would have to explicitly move, shift around, or remove entirely some of the post-credit scenes. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, but I really like how we kind of talked about this. I think how interesting could it be of I want to find the story of, Commander Cody. I want to find the story of another Jedi that's kind of relevant or
Hmm.
something of the
Hmm.
sort, and just think about like where do they fit and what are the pieces and how do I tell their kind of complete bit. And it's such an interesting way to think about watching Star Wars compared to, hey, new show, let's go watch
Hmm.
it. All right, I feel like watching the original trilogy again.
Yeah, because as much as the movies are the story of Anakin Skywalker, there are other frames. There are other ways to enjoy the story. And like I said, you can't fit it all in your brain at once. You kind of have to break it down into this is the Ventress story. This is the Obi-Wan story.
Yeah, because I even think like Wedge Antilles or other like rebel leadership kind of gets a little bits of screen
Cole
time here and there.
Tackbright? Where's the Cole Tackbright cut?
I have no idea who that is. You have found a character that my brain has like never heard of that one.
You
So
know how in A New Hope there's two different people that are actually Wedge?
yes.
So in the book From a Certain Point of View, which is like a series of Star Wars short
Yes.
stories,
Yes. I
they
love those.
explain that they're not both Wedge. It's not two actors who portrayed Wedge. It's actually two different characters, and the other one is named Cole Tackbright, and his voice sounds exactly like Wedge Antilles, famous Captain Wedge Antilles, and so he's had this like reputation on the base of everyone thinks it's Wedge when he's coming around the corner, and it's like, oh, it's just Tackbright. Who cares about that guy?
That's hilarious.
Because in A New Hope, the person those two characters are credited as Wedge, but they're played by two different actors, but they're voiced by the same person, and that person is not either of the people who portray him in that movie.
Oh my gosh, why does this have to be that complicated?
George Lucas is just like that.
Oh, you love having that, don't you? So incredible. Incredible. So I always like thinking about Wedge because I think he's one of the interesting like Star Wars bits of trivia because he is the uncle to Ewan McGregor.
Oh yes, of course.
And that's always one of those fun facts of how they can kind of come together. So
And Ewan McGregor's brother is a fighter pilot, just coincidentally.
yeah, they're basically the same person. So yeah,
Yeah, no, Wedge is great. Wedge is the only survivor of both Death Star runs. He's a very important character in the series.
yeah, he's a hero people don't appreciate.
Hmm.
Hmm. Oh man. Well, this is good. Now we just have to figure out how we're gonna share this watch order so someone can easily find the list.
I'll put a link up to, at the very least, the description. You may have to find your own links on the internet somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, we can figure that out. People are good at searching the internet now, right?
Mhm.
Or just like you've been saying, watch it on Disney Plus and figure it out on your own as
Just
you get
listen
through
to
those
this
talking
podcast,
points.
take notes of every episode that I listed, and then figure it out on your own.
It's so easy. It's
It's
so
so
easy.
easy. It's only 36 episodes.
Yeah. 36 episodes including the movies or
That is not including the movies.
oh, okay. Well, still it's only 3 movies. It's fine.
Mhm.
So are you sure it's 36 and not like 40 when you have to add in the ones from the Revenge of the Sith Ultimate?
No, I
Uh,
included those. I included those.
oh, you are such a talent. Such a talent. So, well, Jade, anything else we need to know about this glorious Route 66?
No, I'd love to hear opinions on it. If anyone out there has either had an interest in Clone Wars, but it seems too daunting, or if you've seen it all before, but it was like 10, 15 years ago, this is a fun way to watch it. And if you want to spend a long weekend or a holiday break, if you have one, spending a lot of time with Star Wars, this is a fun way to do it.
Yeah, I'm just really sad for you that like people aren't that opinionated about Star Wars, so I don't know how much you're gonna really get people's opinions on it. I don't
There
know
are
if that
enough
was
opinionated people out in the world, I think.
I don't know if that was dripping with enough sarcasm or not for you. So,
Yeah.
can only do so much with that as it goes through. Well, if you want to share those opinions, we are on social media. Rob takes care of that for us. So you can find us on Instagram. We are at Bantha Milk Podcast, or we are on Facebook with Bantha Milk Podcast as well. Maybe good ways for us to kind of share some of this as we go through it as well. Great spots to get your opinions and hear from us. But otherwise, Rob should be back from Jamaica. Maybe we'll pull Jade in for another episode in the future or whenever we have to substitute a Dejarik table to talk about all things Star Wars. But for now, thank you so much for coming, Jade, and putting so much time and effort into Route 66 and sharing a Star Wars accelerationist preview.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Good. Glad you enjoyed it. So with that, we'll be back sometime. But until then, we have spoken.
We have spoken.